we saw Bellator, and they were putting on some awesome fights, 2 in a row, day after each other, in Hawaii. So you don't really see that often from a promotion where they'll do two fights, one after the other, and they're both in Hawaii. They beat the UFC to get to Hawaii, and that's pretty remarkable because we have a Hawaiian champ in the UFC, Max Holloway, and he's been campaigning to get a card in Hawaii, but maybe the train's gone here.
I would say the UFC are going to bring something out, but let's talk about which
Bellator
one.
212.
212 first, okay.
And that was Brent Primus versus Michael Chandler. Obviously, Brent Primus beat Michael Chandler in their first encounter, but it was a win, not really a win, because Michael Chandler actually injured himself and he could no longer fight, so he lost the title. But Michael Chandler, since that injury, has come back and won all the fights, and now he beat Brent Primus, just absolutely annihilated him, stopped everything he could do, and Michael Chandler really is one of the best who's not in the UFC.
I would say so. A great win, and keep fighting and keep winning, and we'll see what happens. Maybe there's a UFC contract on the horizon. Who knows? Hopefully
one day we get to see Michael Chandler, because he's beat some really, really tough opponents, and the sky's the limit for him. One day he will get signed, I believe, though.
Imagine that, throwing Michael Chandler into that lightweight mix.
He will be up there.
That's an absolute crazy scenario.
He's so all-rounded that he might be the puzzle to solve Khabib one day.
I wonder.
He's very all-rounded. But the co-main event on that Bellator 212 card, it's unfortunate to say, but Frank Mir, I think his time's done. I feel like his time's done. He lost to Javi Ayala, and he basically submitted to punches, and I feel like Frank Mir's time is up.
Yeah, so Frank Mir,
and we're talking about a guy who he lost to is not a very good guy. He's like a 10-6, 11-6 now. So if you're losing in round 2 to punches, submitting to punches, when in the UFC you were known as the big heavyweight with the crazy submission skills, and you're getting submitted by punches, it's a bit sad. He is old. He's had a great career. He doesn't need to fight. He's got a great future in commentary and analyst for Bellator, anywhere really. He's very fun to watch in his commentary roles. Very enjoyable. He doesn't need to fight. So I hope he doesn't fight again. Yeah. We're also going to give a shout out to, on the prelim card, Chris Avila, trains with Nate Diaz, got a win by submission. So shout out to the Cesar Gracie boys there.
That's that Cesar Gracie jiu-jitsu game right there. High level stuff. Rear naked choke. That was good.
Yeah, and he was the first on the preliminary card there. Now we're going to get into the next day, which was Bellator 213. And this showed a lot of good fights. There was a lot of interesting matchups. The first one being Naaman Gracie versus Ed Ruth. So we didn't know what to expect here, because Naaman Gracie, being a Gracie, he has ridiculous jiu-jitsu, trains at Renzo Gracie's, all of the best high-level no-gi grapplers in the world, coming up against Ed Ruth, who is a 3-time national champion. So 3-time NCAA champion in wrestling. It usually doesn't work out well for the jiu-jitsu guy, but in this contest, he just absolutely obliterated him on the ground and finished him. Finished Ed Ruth.
Yeah, that was an amazing fight. Also, a really technical fight. We saw Ed Ruth trying to get those takedowns, but then Naaman Gracie very active off his back, really fighting for those submissions, really active off his back, and
you don't see that often from jiu-jitsu guys. They're kind of, they're not really in that realm. The wrestlers are kind of ground and pounding them. They're working, and the jiu-jitsu guys are usually flustered. They don't really know what to do. But Naaman Gracie's that next level.
Well, when you're talking about those Renzo Gracie guys, it's a different story. They're very active. They're not going to just sit. They're not going to let you just sit there on top of them in side control or half guard. They're always looking for submissions. They're always looking to get out, and that's what we saw. And we saw. That's what we saw. We saw Ed Ruth couldn't land any damage, and Naaman Gracie's movement very good, and then eventually he got the submission, which is what we sort of expect. Even though we sometimes don't see that against the wrestler, sometimes the wrestler will control the fight. But when you're talking, as I said, when you're talking to some of the caliber of Naaman Gracie, it's a different story.
Yeah, Naaman Gracie now moves into, that was obviously the welterweight Grand Prix I like how they do the Grand Prix over there, those tournaments.
They should bring that to the UFC.
I feel like that's a really good idea, and he moves one step closer to that welterweight belt, really. And Rory McDonald holds that belt, so
yep.
Can he make a do?
Is he on that level yet? Maybe not, but you know, keep fighting, keep getting wins, keep getting experience, and you might be there one day.
Yeah. The next fight was at catchweight. Lyoto Machida versus Rafael Carvalho. Lyoto Machida just debuted at Bellator on such a good card in Hawaii. He obviously was on a 2-fight win streak, now on a 3-fight win streak. Yep. So maybe Lyoto's making a comeback in his career here. And that was he versed former champion Rafael Carvalho, and he's beat him, which it was a split decision, very close.
Very close fight.
Very, very close fight, but he's on track to actually get a title shot, I believe.
I think so too. Even though it was a close fight, some people said Rafael won, some people said Lyoto won. I'm not mad with the split decision for Lyoto, but it was a pretty even fight in terms of the grappling, in terms of the striking, pretty even stuff.
It was Lyoto at the end of that fight that really hustled and allowed him to get that win, I believe.
And that's the most important thing when you have a close fight, rallying right at the end, really showing the judges that, you know, I've won this fight, because the last thing they see is you in a dominant position or controlling. It's always good for the judges. So, yeah, can he go for a title shot? It's possible. Can he become a champion in two different organizations? Possibly, yes.
It should be pretty awesome to see Lyoto Machida. It's always good to see Lyoto. He's just such a veteran, such a all round, like such a beautiful fighter to watch.
Yeah, his style's amazing. He's the Karate Kid, and everybody loves to watch him fight.
Yeah. Now, the star of the show, the star of Hawaii, Alima Leigh McFarlane, is the champ, and she defended her title in front of her fans against Valerie Letourneau, who has fought in the UFC, and she submitted her opponent by a triangle choke. She submitted nearly every one of her opponents, and she proves again that her jiu-jitsu, her game, is nobody can beat it in the Bellator.
Yeah, I think, well, while watching that fight, I thought the fight was a bit sloppy. It was a bit sloppy, but then she got the submission in round 3, and that saved her. You know,
when it goes to the ground, she really dominates.
That's right. But up until that point, I was thinking this is a bit sloppy. The level of competition didn't look like it was that high compared to what you'd see in the UFC. But did get the submission and got the defense in hometown in Hawaii. So there's not much else I can say on that.
And the crowd erupted when she won. It was pretty. It's nothing like defending your belt in your home country, and in Honolulu, Hawaii, it's a great place. So Alima Leigh McFarlane can be a real star, and I feel like maybe one day she should go into the UFC
for sure.